Who's Kat Torres? Ask the kids, because the kids know. Do you, warrior? Let's explore who she is and why she was just sentenced to 8 years in prison for human trafficker. Kat Torres, she is called an influencer. I don't even know in 2024 what influencer really means, because by virtue of all the devices everyone has, everybody's an influencer in one way or the other. But I digress with that information. But let me read to you about Kat Torres and why this story, barely covered, received 8 years. Instagram influencer jailed for trafficking and slavery. We describe human trafficking at the Warriors as slavery because we think it is a much more descriptive word. It's actual slavery. People seem to get confused. For some reason, they think human trafficking is somewhere out there when it is happening in every town, city, and rural area across America, not to mention the globe, okay? So slavery, enslaving a person, personal gain, whether for their own financial, status, but it is enslaving. I can't say it enough because that's exactly what it is. And today in the United States, we have more slavery than any other time in history. And also the other thing is, constantly I'm seeing 40 million people enslaved globally, 28 million in the United States. You know what? I'm here to say in our work with law enforcement and all of our research, we don't really know the numbers because this is a crime that hides in plain sight. It is a crime that is not reported. For all we know, 28 million in the United States with our open borders and the influx of all of the illegal aliens. I don't even know what the number could be. It could be 50 million. Plus, we don't really know. But if one person is enslaved, especially our precious children, that is one person, child, too much. But let's get back to Kat Torres, because this story all broke about a week and a half ago, and I was surprised that it didn't get more coverage. But you know why? Because it's not glitzy. It's not, I guess, sexy. But these influencers, we know our kids are vulnerable. We know children ages 9 to 17 have access to 4 different devices, which are their phones and laptops, Chromebooks, gaming consoles. And we have to point out, and I'm discovering in all of the cases I research and cover, and I've pointed it out and people don't like it, kids today are very savvy. A lot of kids know how to buy a burner phone at a gas station, at a convenience store, and have multiple devices that their parents and caregivers don't even know about. So we always have to keep an eye out for that, because their vulnerable status, their seeking of love and of attention. Remember, we live in this society. Look at what the kids are watching. They're watching adults. They're watching women my age, I'm sorry, rocking the bikini. You know what? That's fine. Do it in your backyard in the beach. But this is the kids. This is what they're watching. And this is what they're watching is getting the most attention. All of these young women in particular, if it's a young preteen or teen girl, I've got this, a designer pocketbook. I'm living the good life. I've got this boyfriend. That's an influencer as they build and, collaborate with brands. This is a very complicit model. So I'm trying to keep it very simple because I could go off the rails actually with this. But think of a big circle with a lot of spokes, a big wheel with a lot of these spokes, and every spoke is making it go around and around and around. But Instagram influencer jailed. Now this is as of July 15th. For trafficking and slavery. And I'm reading this directly from the BBC. When 2 young Brazilian women were reported missing in September 2022, their families and the FBI launched a desperate search across the U.S. to find them. All they knew was that they were living with wellness influencer Kat Torres. Torres has now been sentenced to 8 years in prison for human trafficking and slavery of one of those women. The BBC World Service has also been told that charges have been filed against her in relation to a second woman. So how did this former model, I want to ask you, who partied with the likes of Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio, and she graced the covers, holding hands with him, different international magazines, come to groom her followers? Because that's the question. How did this all happen? Because this story will mirror many stories out there you will never hear about. And this is why we have to keep an eye on the kids. We have to know what's going on. We have to have critical, crucial, open conversations. Our kids are smart today, right? Starting at ages, 8, age appropriate, what's going on in the world. Because after all, you've given them these devices. So it is your duty to have some sort of duty of care to put some guardrails in our warrior's opinion. I urge you, because our children are the chattel. They're being exploited left and right for monetary gain of strangers. Why let the world educate your child? So let's talk about this Kat Torres. A lot of young people are describing as an influencer online. Again, it goes to the vulnerable minds our kids are seeking, that she provided, they'll stumble. Remember, we have various reports. We have algorithms will direct children towards content that is actually dangerous. In this hand, it could be somebody, as an example, a young woman, say a 12, 13-year-old, searching for good food to eat. This is the example. And after a couple of clicks, the algorithms can lead, and in most cases do, to dangerous content, because that is the content that gets the biggest numbers, right? Clicks and likes and attention. So a young woman said that she stumbled across Torres in 2017 and became a victim. And she was attracted to her because a Brazilian influencer who talked constantly about her rise, because she lived a very, as a child, she was a victim of an impoverished background. But now this is the part, girls and boys too, young people, vulnerable, are seeing her. She's in Hollywood. She's arm in arm with these, international movie stars, for lack of a better term. She's living the high life. She's wearing beautiful clothes and makeup and hair. And so many young people report she seemed like she had overcome her impoverished background, her childhood abuse and violence. She talked a lot about to these kids, these strangers online, and she talked a lot about her traumatic experiences. So of course our young vulnerable teens are going to relate to this and think, oh, if she can do it, I can do it too. I want to be like Kat Torres. So she also published an autobiography called The Voice, in which she claimed she could make predictions as a result of her spiritual powers. And she was on many different Brazilian media shows that have, cred to their name. So everybody was kind of taken in by her. And also, she was very involved with that hallucinogenic drug, that ayahuasca. Am I saying it the correct way? Ayahuasca. And people are saying that's when she started talking about that and taking it and believing it. It changed her spiritually. But anyway, the bottom line is our young girls in particular, our young teens, our young women were drawn to her. She could overcome adversity and have all this glamour, power, make money, being a model. Well, I can do it too. But it appears she had a very dark side, and she started asking young women, and we don't have the full scope of the story. And that's the other thing I wish with media. You know everything about somebody vomited in the back of an airplane, and I have to see countless stories about that. But you can't give us the nuts and bolts, the facts about these stories that matter or may prevent another young person from getting involved, perhaps a child, in a situation like this. So a vulnerable young women, she would invite them to come to her house. And you can live with me while you get on your feet. Now, I'm kind of just paraphrasing the situations here. And so a lot of vulnerable people agreed. You can come and study here and have free room and board. And you can do a few things for me. You can walk my dog, maybe throw in some laundry. So basically, this is how she got young women to her house. And when they got there, they realized it was not what they thought, but they had no money. They thought things might change. They didn't know how to get out. I do ask you, where was their family? But we'll leave that for another program. When these young women would confront Ana Torres, the influencer, she would get angry and ugly and violent, domestic violence, right? You have to remember, with all of this, domestic violence intersects with human trafficking. By virtue of they traveled from one place to her place is a form of human trafficking, right? So now they're in a situation with domestic violence. Domestic violence and human trafficking intersect each other. Force, coercion, right? It is a psychological trauma on especially especially that young developing mind. They're scared. They don't know what to do. So they stay in the situation and they're psychologically beaten down, right? So, families, though, these two women in particular, young women, their families were looking for them. And that's how the FBI, and thank goodness, got involved. But she had also, Torres, she eventually married a man. They're renting a 5-bedroom house now in the suburbs of Austin, Texas. And she was recruiting repeatedly, come and live with us, come and work for us. In return, she promised to help them achieve their dreams. Now, how often, warrior, do we hear this same scenario, capitalizing on these intimate details of a vulnerable person? And she would offer life coaching seminars and things like that. In addition to these two young women, there are 4 other women who have come forward now. We're talking young because they were late teens when this happened. Remember, a minor cannot consent. Now they are in their early 20s, some of them. But finally, one of these women reached out and said she was suicidal to a friend of hers, and this is how this whole thing started. She also, this Kat Torres, a common scenario, got some of these girls to participate in strip clubs. Now, you may think a common misconception is these women do this of their own accord. A mom who wants to make some extra money, or a young woman who wants to pay for college. Now, that may be the scenario for a few, and I say a few. We know with strip clubs, it is a form of trafficking. There are upwards of 90% of these women working in these establishments. First of all, they lie about their age, so they're underage, a lot of them to start with. No age verification, very little. And second, there's a pimp or a trafficker or a complicit strip club making a lot of money off of these women. So we have to start thinking in different terms. It's not just a business establishment, for the most part, of women going to make some extra money for groceries, okay? And these women now were being put into strip clubs. They were also, now here's the coercive part, they were forbidden from talking to each other. They needed permission to leave their rooms, including using the bathroom. This is human trafficking 101. So I urge all of you, most of these young women said they could not get out of the situation because she held their identification. The strip club money would go to her directly. They had nothing. And they knew that her now boyfriend was keeping guns in the house, psychologically damaging, scared. So I say to you, while we're talking about all of this, understand the criminality. I don't know how to drive it home more of the online world. Now, all of us, it is a digital world. We're online. We love it. I'm not giving it up. It connects me today to you out there. You may be across the globe watching this. But we have to take our vulnerable kids, most of you, buy the devices, pay for the routers, pay for the internet, whatever all this is. You must come together and realize bad things happen. That's all you have to know. I am tired of people saying, don't scare people, don't shock people, clean up what you have to say. Why should I? Because the predators are winning. We have more people trafficked in the United States of America than ever before. We pride ourselves, I have heard, especially in the last few weeks, on being the freest country in the world, the global leaders of the free world. Are we really that free when we're allowing our children, when we are allowing all of this? So remember, don't be overwhelmed. Take the information, go through it, do what you can do in your space. If you're a mom, a grandma, a dad, an aunt, uncle, a teacher, a healthcare provider, be aware. Remember, better to be safe than sorry. If you see something, say something. Call 911. That is your first step, your local authorities to get this going. And then we'll take it from there. Always listen to the warriors, linswarriors.org. Help us expand our education programs that we need monies for. Because when I'm in on these meetings and coalitions and Zooms and in person, and I'm hearing organizations talk about the millions of dollars they have being matched and this and that, that is great. I'm here to support anything that has impact. But you know what? I'm only seeing human trafficking, sexual exploitation getting worse, not getting better. So I'm not walking away, and you shouldn't walk away because I don't want it to be your child, my child, any child. But I want to make impact. And impact, I see very little of, that boots on the ground. So we have to stay in the community. We have to look at it that way, not close the door because it's ugly and dark. What can we do in our space, in our community, within our families? Because our hashtag at The Warriors is community creates change. I firmly believe it, and you should too, because after all, we must, in 2024, be warriors. Each and every day, don't forget to kiss your children, hug your children, ask them what's going on in their lives. Simple conversation, not questioning, not accusing, open and honest. A couple of minutes a day when you're in the car, over the family meal, sitting around the house. It's summertime now. Everybody has a little bit of more free time, or it seems that way because it's summer. Sitting around the pool, whatever you're doing, talk about it. Remember, the kids are smart. The kids are savvy. We're finding missing kids. What do they have? Burner phones, including the case we just solved of a 12-year-old missing, right? What did she have? Multiple devices she had access to because she knew how to buy burner phones at age 12. And she was talking to multiple men, strangers, online. And one of them drove hundreds of miles to pick her up and drive her across state lines to his state, where he kept her since June. May. She was just found, which is the great news when a child is found. But how did this all happen? Let's not just celebrate that. Let's get in there. Let's dig in and find out. Talk to your kids. Community creates change. Remember, each and every day, go out and be a warrior.